Juan. It's howdy doody time.
Yes, it is. And hello, and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly program where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. As a reminder, the thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, you can talk to us live on Facebook or on the Facebook video replay. So, good evening to all on Facebook and on the YouTube chat running alongside this YouTube video. So, hello and good evening. And if you're not watching us live, talk to yourself while you listen to this later. My name is John Rewark. I'm a past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957, in Fairfax, Virginia. We have the full house tonight. So, in no particular order, let's start with the Juan Sepulveda.
Hello, everybody. Juan Sepulveda here from Orange Blossom Lodge number 80 in sunny Kissimmee, Florida. And I do know my last name's pronunciation, Juan Sepulveda. And the brother behind the Gentleman's Brotherhood. You don't know what it is? We'll figure it out.
And a very good brotherhood it is. All right, next up, Mike the intern. Welcome, Mike. Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, good evening. Glad to be back on here again. And it's Mike Hambrick. What am I? The Junior Warden and Lodge Education Officer at Lakeshore Lodge, number 307 in Madison, Ohio. Good evening, everyone.
Party on. Next up, Jason Richards. Hello and good evening. And unmute your side so we can hear you. What? We had a last minute microphone exchange, so we'll come back to
technology
Jason.
Glitch.
It's a live show, folks. Next up, Robert Johnson. Good evening. Hello.
Hey, Jason Richards, past Education Lodge number 16 in Clifton, Virginia, member of the Colonial Lodge number 1821 in Washington, D.C., with a mic that actually works at present.
Great. Good to hear. Awesome. Robert Johnson.
Oh, hey there. Robert Johnson here, Secretary of Space Novum Lodge in Libertyville, Illinois. Grand Lodge Committee member, as many of us are, and a host of Women's KMU Masonic podcast. Thanks.
Awesome. All right. So, yeah, how's everyone doing? This has been an interesting time still with the quarantine, but Masonry still lives on.
Still no corona.
Yes, that's good. We've all been healthy and safe, and really enjoyed last week's show on mental health, especially during this time when there's a lot of new variables thrown in there. So, again, thanks to Donnie Dillon for coming on last week. So tonight, we thought we'd mix it up a little bit and get into a little bit more, not academic, but just a little bit more logistical side of Freemasonry. So tonight's topic is on Grand Lodge committees. Now, if you're new to Masonry or if you're new to the Lodge, you'll know that the Worshipful Master can establish a committee pretty much at will to go look into things for him. Right? He's the representative at the top, and yet he does or should not do everything. And so it's within the best interest to delegate to a committee to go off and be responsible for looking into that task for him. And so Grand Lodges are no different. Since a lodge is made up of the members, the Grand Lodge is made up of many members who will accomplish many tasks. So tonight we're going to talk about
or put off many tasks,
or delay them. You know, it's like any group project.
Complicate any tasks, stonewall tasks.
That's right.
Anyway,
so tonight we're going to talk about how many and what are the Grand Lodge committees throughout the different jurisdictions that we represent. We're certainly not going to cover them all throughout all the jurisdictions, but give you a taste of what each grand jurisdiction tends to do. So, let's see. Let's start with Florida. And we'll go over to Juan to talk about which committees does the Grand Lodge of Florida have currently established?
All right. Well, they are 12 in number.
Love it.
Starting with child ID. Do you need me to explain what some of these are, or
Yeah,
just
why don't
read
you
through
go
them?
into it? Because then, if we have repeats, we'll just summarize them later.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you what I know about them. So we have a child ID program, which in summary helps communities prepare for the unlikely and unfortunate event of a child being abducted. So it helps the family prepare documents, photography, video to expedite the recovery of a child if he or she were to be abducted. We have the Committee on Work, which actually basically makes sure is the lodge police, make sure that everything is followed to the T. We have endowment procurement, so that has it's multiple legs, but we have a program called Let Your Pennies Make Good Sense, which is almost like a rounding up kind of donation that goes to the different organizations that we support. It's 12 of these, so I'm not gonna explain all of them. I'll tell you the title, and then if you have any questions,
Yeah, some
you
of
can
them
ask
should
me.
be self-explanatory, hopefully.
Yeah. Fraternal Administrative Endowment Fund, Grand Masters Charity, Masonic Education, Masonic Leadership Training, Masonic Youth Activities, Membership Development, Perpetual Membership, Public Education and Citizenship, and Public Relations and Publicity. Those are the 12.
Those are the 12. Have they always been there? Have there been some added, subtracted?
I know that they've changed. I couldn't tell you like which ones
Sure.
are original and which one have been added. I know we've um at least the one that comes to mind first is Let Your Pennies Make Good Sense. That is one that I've always seen, and I know that people talk about how effective it used to be many years ago. So it's been a long standing one. But I couldn't tell you specifically if some of these have been added lately.
Sure. Yeah, I wasn't expecting the whole play-by-play. So yeah, some of those are pretty standard and straightforward. Let's see. Are there similar ones in, say, Ohio?
Okay, well, I have to apologize a little bit on this. I did not jump out and look to see what committees we actually have. I know we have a membership and a rituals committee. And of course, I know about the education committee since I am a member of the education committee.
Ah.
Um,
Yeah, I was going to see.
Committee, yeah.
I was going to see at the end how many of us actually have our fingers in any of these committees and what are they. So we'll hold that. We'll hold that till we go around.
Yeah. I was actually just starting to see if I could find something that actually told us what committees we have.
So while you're doing that, you should be able to find these in most of the time, depending on your jurisdiction, on your Grand Lodge website. So if you don't know, if you just type in Grand Lodge of and insert your state, if you're in the United States, if you navigate around, you should be able to find a list of committees, so that way you can contact certain points of contact within that committee. So it's just something to think about. If you're playing along at home and you're trying to fill out your bingo card, go look up your state's Grand Lodge and see how many committees that you have. Okay.
And I know on our Grand Lodge site, it really does not do that.
Really? So it's made a liar out of me. Okay.
For Ohio, I mean, we have, on our website, you do have access to the Grand Secretary, the Program Coordinator, Grand View and Lodge Support, Sales and Supplies, and the Accountant. But and then if you log into Grandview, there's stuff in there, but there's really not that I've been able to find. Oh wait, Chad is telling me where to find it on in Grandview. So let me.
Oh, thanks, Chad.
So let's see. I'm under there. I see the past grands. Let's see the grand officers. And Grand Lodge info. Yeah, there's really,
Right.
I don't see a list there of
Mhm.
our committees, but yeah.
But that brings up a good point. That's where you would typically look. If you're trying to follow
Yep.
along, you would look in your Grand Lodge officers or Grand Line or Grand Lodge section, because it's
Yeah.
usually associated kind of to the membership of the Grand Lodge. So that's good to think through it out loud.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. Let's see. I even looked, I thought I was looking at one of the officers' manuals.
Right, you want me to come back to you then while you kind of skim
Yeah,
through?
please come back to me. Yeah.
All right. So Jason, do you want to do DCs or which one do you want to cover? I've got Virginia kind of
Yeah,
laid
you
out
take
right
care
now.
of Virginia.
I'll take care of Virginia.
You take care of Virginia. That's a tall order. Yeah, let's talk about Grand Lodge of DC committees. So on the excuse me, on the Grand Lodge of DC website, you can actually take a look at least a listing of all their committees. They've got upwards of 20. They've got upwards of 24 of them.
Holy
they've
smokes!
Yeah, I know. They've got the Accounts and Audits Committee, the Budget and Cash Flow Committee, the Bylaws Committee, the Cipher Revision Committee, the Code Revision Committee, the Community Outreach Committee, the Executive Committee, the Grand Lodge Awards Committee, the Grand Lodge Festivities Committee, the Grand Lodge IT Committee, the Grievances Committee, the History Committee, the Jurisprudence Committee, the Library and Museum Committee, the Masonic Code Maintenance Committee, the Masonic Day of Thanksgiving and Remembrance Committee, the Masonic Education and Service Committee, the Masonic Recognition and Fraternal Relations Committee, the Planning Committee, the Scholarship Committee, the Unfinished Business Committee, the Work and Lectures Committee, I'm not making it up, the Youth Committee. And then they added one as recently as early 2019, which is the Washington, D.C. Masonic Hospitality Committee.
Oh, you forgot the committee to approve all committees while committeeing?
Fair. I figured that was redundantly repetitive.
That's from the Redundant and Repetitive Committee. Wow. So yeah, that might be the winner tonight.
So that's a lot for such a small, compact jurisdiction.
Hey, they're busy. Okay, let's go over to RJ. What do you have as far as committees?
I'm just blown away by the number of those committees.
Me too.
I'm just going to start with my favorite quote on committees. Committees suck. Robert Johnson. No, I'm just not a fan of committees myself, but we'll talk about that later. So, not to downplay any of the amazing things committees have done.
Yes.
There's usually a single driver. But anyway, Grand Lodge of Illinois is pretty conservative with their committees. We don't have that many. We have 13 committees, and we have a cap on each committee. And so in no particular order, straight out of our code book, I'll just read you those and the number of people they can have each. So the Grand Lodge of Illinois, at the close of each annual meeting of the Grand Lodge, the Grand Master shall appoint the following standing committees to serve for the ensuing Masonic year. So when I say appoint, basically a chairman of each of these committees is decided upon, and they submit the names of the people they want on the committee, and the Grand Master says yes or no, and he's appointed for the year. And those committees are the Committee on Masonic Jurisprudence, which can have no more than 5 members. All right, so jurisprudence, for anybody out there who's not familiar with the term, it's law and legal and disciplinary action, all that good stuff. A committee on appeals and grievances, which can have no more than 3 members.
Wow.
A committee on legislation, which shall consist of no more than 3 members. A committee on Illinois Masonic charities, which shall consist of no more than 9 members. A committee on finance, which shall consist of no more than 6 members, and the Deputy Grand Master as an ex officio member. A committee on Masonic correspondence to consist of 1 member. A board of grand examiners, which shall consist of no more than 9 grand lecturers. Now, at any given time, there may not be 9, so it could be less.
Mm.
A committee on credentials, which shall consist of no more than 15 members. A committee on petitions, no more than 3. Committee on obituaries, just 1. A committee on the Grand Master's annual report, 1 member. A committee on Masonic education, which shall consist of no more than 5 members, although currently our education committee has 6 by the, what do you call it? An edict, a special allowance for the Grand Lodge of Illinois. And an advisory committee on investments, which shall have no more than 6 members. We have and then there's a committee on charity, which we already talked about, which really tells us who those people are. They're self-identified, so it's always the Grand Master, Deputy Grand Master, Senior, Junior Grand Wardens, Grand Treasurer, Grand Secretary. That's the Charity Commission. And then there's actually a committee on printing. That's probably our weirdest one, I think, and that is just 3 people, I believe. It's Grand Master, Treasurer, and Grand Sec. And the Grand Secretary is actually why it's under committees, but Grand Librarian, so a committee of 1. So those are our committees. I hope you guys are all still awake.
Yeah, and you said, you said there's 12 of them?
Yeah, 13 committees. 13 committees.
Right, lucky 13.
And 72, like it's all really kind of cool. I was like, if you divide that out, what do you get? I mean, the coolest thing is 180, but it's actually 180 and a half, so not really. Anyway. So much almost symbolism.
Almost.
So
it's a rounding error.
I do have a list.
Oh, okay, good. Let's go
Yay!
back to Hammy. You finally found it.
It's 4 pages. So there is the Charters and Dispensation Committee.
What?
There is the Committee on Education and Fraternal Correspondence and Membership. There is the Credentials Committee. There is Education and Information Committee. There is the Daniel Carter Beard Masonic Scout Award Committee. There is the Examination of Visiting Brethren. The Grand Lodge Charitable Foundation Committee. The Grievances Committee. The History Committee, the Investment and Depositories Committee. There is the Leadership Committee, Masonic Jurisprudence, the Masonic Model Student Committee, Masonic Service Association Committee, Membership Committee, Public Relations Committee, Relief Committee, Ritual Committee, the Rufus Putnam Award Committee, Scholarship Committee, Special Olympics of Ohio Committee, State of the Craft Committee, Technology Committee, Temple Committee, Time and Place Committee, Trial Commission, the 2019-20 Ad Hoc Committee Grand Masters Classes, Ways, Means, and Accounts Committee, and Youth Organizations Committee. And
wait, start over. You lost me. Start over.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Now the only two that I know for sure the count of every member in it would be the Education and Information Committee, and there's one for each district, which there are 25 districts, and then there is the Senior Grand Deacon and Junior Grand Deacon. There is also a chairman and vice chairman of that.
Holy smokes!
Yeah. And one amendment. Oh, go ahead.
And the Masonic Model Student Assistance Program also has 1 member from each district as well. So, and that one I could talk on too later, by the way. I'm not on it, but I know a lot about that one.
This is going to be a long show, folks.
So one amendment to my earlier DC information, I was looking at the Masonic Code while Mike was expelling carbon dioxide. And by code, there are only 13 out of those 24 committees that are actually standing committees. And we can go through those and talk about those a little bit later.
Interesting. But wait, there's more. Because
go ahead.
Did you time it to do that? Whose kids were that?
I didn't. I apologize.
That was amazing. I'm going to boost the audio on that in the podcast.
Okay.
Juan's got his own voice track. His laugh track.
TMR has its own laugh track.
Yeah.
All right. So what I wanted to say is that worshipful brother Billy Schmidt, he was asking for the people in DC, do you have to sit through 24 presentations from each one of the committee members when you have the official district deputy grandmaster visit or anything like that? Because here in Florida,
I don't know.
Okay. Well, then it doesn't happen.
So whenever they visit,
you would know.
You would have to.
There's no forgetting it.
Oh wow! They bring a presentation to their lodge.
Yeah. So
wow.
He mentioned that in some districts they will have all 12 speak. What I've seen, at least here in the 16th Masonic district, is they'll have maybe 4 or 5 presentations. That's at least what I remember, unless they did all 12 and I completely just shut down by the 5th. All I remember is like 4 to 5 presentations. And a very important point is that you could, as the grandmaster, for example, appoint someone who you think is going to be great at doing the work or at leading the committee itself. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that individual who is the committee man is the best at presenting. I've had some amazing examples of presentations a few years ago. I say a few years, but it must have been 7 or 8 years ago. And I still remember vividly, this brother's presentation was about our child ID program. And we've mentioned the child ID program before. I kind of explained a little bit. It's to help parents and guardians of children to protect them. It also helps them to help law enforcement in the prevention and quick recuperation of someone who's been abducted, for example. But the way in which this brother presented it made that program so important to everyone who was listening, because he actually gave some statistics about how often in this country there's an Amber Alert. I mean, I don't know if you have Amber Alerts. I think that's a Florida thing. You have Amber Alerts? Okay.
Oh yeah.
So he was telling us how often that happens and what are the statistics of being able to recover a child if someone abducts them, how important it is for you to have current photographs or video, any kind of DNA sample, fingerprints, and provide those to law enforcement in a timely manner to increase the likelihood of recovering.
Right.
Now, it shook us to the core. I remember. You know what the other 4 presentation were that night? I have no idea.
Neither do you.
I don't have any clue. That man was so effective that here I am 7 years later, remembering the importance of that program, even though at the time I thought, this is weird. Why do we have any kind of child anything? I need to hear this. And it just, okay, that made complete sense to me.
Well, if you want to be entertained, get ready for Virginia's 19 committees that we have. Here we go.
Can you please also, just when you get there, can you tell me how many people are probably on a couple of those committees? Because when you told me, I pooped my pants.
So,
thanks, Al Roker.
So it was also, to balance that out, it was amazing to hear you say, limited to 1, limited to 9. That's fascinating in itself because those are arbitrary numbers. There's a story behind why those numbers were picked. And I only have 9 of my closest friends. We're going to limit that committee to 9 people, right? That's probably how it happened. But it's been my experience in Virginia that you do have your chairman and your vice chairman of your committees. You have some active members of that committee, and then you have all the district representatives of that. So
actually, there are relatively few vice chairmen on the committees.
right.
I think membership was an exception.
Right. You're an exception, Jason. So let's go into it. Number
Am
one.
I a vice chairman?
I don't know. Blood program, number one. So we do blood drives, and so this committee keeps track of that. Number two, code commission. Reviewing the existing Masonic law to make sure it's clear. Number three, credentials. The Committee on Credentials is called into service for each Grand Communication or at the discretion of the Grand Master for credentialing. Number four, education. Of course, I have to figure out what that means because every Grand Lodge says it differently. To increase the knowledge of Masonic history, philosophy, and symbolism, and enhance the leadership abilities of the members. Interesting. Next up, number five, finance. The Finance Committee is helping to ensure the financial health of the Grand Lodge. Number six, foreign correspondence. Right. So how do they communicate with all of the other grand jurisdictions? Number seven, a committee on history. So it shall receive historical sketches as may be presented. These sketches shall be reviewed by the committee, and the committee shall report to the Grand Annual Communication those sketches in their judgment that should be published. So they review history to make sure it's historical. Number eight, the IT Committee, the Information Technology Committee. This is about IT, so this covers everything from the website to guidance to everything IT-wise. Number nine, the Jurisprudence Committee. Committee on Jurisprudence, fancy word, is about Masonic law. So this is where all the any new laws or interpretation of the law happens. The Supreme Court, as you were. Number 10, the Lodge Membership in Perpetuity Committee. So the LMIP plan was established in 1992 to have a perpetual endowment, which will continue to pay a participant's dues to both his lodge and the Grand Lodge after his death. So this is a program that's been restructured in recent years, but it's where you can pay like 20 years up front and then you're good for life. Pay all your dues, that is. Number 11, Lodge Services. The Grand Lodge Committee on Lodge Services is there to support the Grand Lodge in providing mentoring and in-lodge services to lodges, which request help building a viable plan for lodge growth. So if you need a budgeting spreadsheet, they'll build it for you, that kind of thing. Number 12, the publishing board, but specifically we have our statewide magazine called the Masonic Herald. So there's a Masonic Herald publications board just for that. I'd love to see like a general publishing board which is responsible for all media, which is different than public relations, which we'll get to. Number 13, Masonic Home Ambassadors. So the Masonic Home in Virginia is where we have our home for elderly brothers who need a place to stay. It's part of our Grand Lodge charities, and so we have ambassadors in that committee. Number 14, membership. Grand Lodge Committee on Membership to develop and implement membership programs to promote the attraction of new members and assure the retention of existing members. Right up my alley. Number 15, public relations. The committee shall develop a program to increase the public understanding of Virginia Freemasonry and create a more favorable opinion of the organization through press releases, print, and interviews. Number 16.
/ propaganda.
Yes, of course. So we interpret history and we have good propaganda. Number 16, the Committee on Relief. So we are making funds available to Master Masons, their widows, and orphans whenever a bona fide need exists. So a nice little fund to help out those brothers in need. Taking care of your own, which is not a bad idea. Number 17, Strategic Planning and Implementation. So this is the committee that governs all the other committees, right? This is the strategic plan for the Grand Lodge of Virginia and laying out kind of the path and what are the goals. And if you look at the goals that are on the website, they kind of break down into some of the other committees. So it's not hard to see how that all aligns. And two more, the Grand Lodge Committee on Work. So this is the custodian of our beautiful ritual, which must be preserved in a perpetual state of purity by constant supervision and schooling. That's interesting. Last one. The Grand Lodge Committee on Youth. So this is the ambassadors for all the youth programs within the state. So there we go. Those are the 19 committees and what they do for the Grand Lodge of Virginia. Yes, you, Robert.
So I don't want to get my hand slapped or anything. So I also should have said that the committees that I told you about are what's in the code. There are a handful of ad hoc committees that are not in the code, right? I know there's an IT committee. It's probably just like one dude.
Right.
There is a membership and a leadership committee that are both ad hoc. That they're there. So, yeah.
So the big question is, who on this group are members, if any of these committees? We'll start with Robert. You on any of those?
Yeah. Hey. Yeah. So I started off my Grand Lodge committee work on the Committee of Masonic Education under a guy named Howard. No, it was on Masonic Charities under Howard Graff. And then I was off of some committees for a while, and then I rejoined the Committee on Masonic Education, left it, and then went back on it. So I've been on that for the last 2 years. So Masonic Education in Illinois, there's really 3 really very active committees in terms of what they do with the constituency. That is the only one of them that is Grand Lodge constituted in the code is education. The other 2 are leadership and membership. And leadership is, I don't know, some make that argument. It's kind of it's an arm of education. In my experience, I kind of feel like leadership isn't Masonic. It's like something you learn outside of Masonry, but that's okay because we have all kinds under our umbrella and some guys need it. So that's all good. And then membership really focuses on those things that make people come to the lodge. So, but Masonic education is where I do most of my work as a committeeman. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Juan, are you on any Florida committees?
I do not have the pleasure of serving in a committee at the moment, but I wouldn't. I mean, I think it's a matter of time. I think we're relatively young to be involved in committees, considering how time consuming some of the committees can be. I see the ages for most committee men they're further along in the game, I think.
A lot of old men in committees, huh?
Oh, don't say it like that.
Yeah, they're ancient. You know?
Graybeards.
Yes, graybeards. Like, let's see, what do I got here? Yeah, something like this, right? Huh? Wait for it. Can you see that? Wait.
Goes the dynamite.
Worshipful Jonathan Thomas Ruark, Chairman, Committee on Masonic. No, just on membership. You're not even on Masonic membership. You're just on Committee on Membership. All members.
Yes.
You're the chairman.
Of everything. Did I say boom goes the dynamite?
Yes.
Boom goes the dynamite.
So you're calling me old. You're calling me old. That's what I heard.
You are a graybeard.
We're not going to start checking for not dues cards, but ID cards around here. So, yeah. So proud to serve as the Committee on Membership. That was a recent ad. And look, Jason? What have you got there? What? Hey, you got one too. I'll hand those out to anybody.
Hey, hold on a second. Is that at the same Grand Lodge?
It is.
Smells like cronyism.
Nepotism. No. So when we were, so I've been on the Committee on Membership for a while. Wanted to kind of lay in the wings, but when the current chairman moved up, I wanted to. I had the honor to move up, and as that opportunity came in, I said, hey, I wanted to think about how we could crunch some numbers and look at a lot of the data and everything that I've nerded out with over the past 5 or 6 years. So I thought I'd bring in some additional help. So because delegation is great, and I brought Jason in to see what we can do once we get some good data from the Grand Lodge, we'll start crunching those numbers and really get an accurate view of what we're doing in Virginia. So, yeah, I'm excited. That's a big deal. COVID has slowed a lot of work down, but is what it is. All right, Hammy, saw you raise your hand earlier.
So yes, I am on the Grand Lodge of Ohio's Education and Information Committee, which is generally just the Education Committee.
So let me ask you the question that Robert said. Is it education is both history, philosophy, and symbolism and leadership? Or is it something else?
It's that. There's an attempt, from my understanding, to roll some stuff in. Because we do have the membership, we do have the leadership committee and so forth, and those are still out there. I just know that some of the pieces of all of that are kind of rolled into that committee as well. We're we're one of the most active committees out there, to my understanding. I personally don't know too much about the other committees, but I do know that the Education Committee is one of the most active historically. So.
Yeah, Mike, I can attest just from seeing posts from Grand Lodge of Ohio that, and also to the committee's work, that I see it is one of the most active committees. I really don't see much else come out of any Grand Lodge, to be fair, except for the our education committees, our membership committees, and our leadership committees. And I keep going back to correct myself tonight. When I said I don't know that we should have leadership within Masonic education, I think I misspoke, because I think there is room for teaching a way to be a Mason, right? And how to lead as a Mason would lead. Mm-hmm. So I think that's important.
And so what I'm hearing is, if you could structure it for Masonic leadership, and not just, hey, here's a Stephen Covey book, go read it, have a good day.
Not TED Talks, unless they're Masonic TED Talks.
Or some sort of book that would actually talk about how to manage something about time for business. Like it's business time.
We could call it business time.
What? I'm wearing my business socks too.
Yeah.
But and I was going to do a quick touch on the Masonic Student Assistance Program that we actually have. It's a very misleading program and committee, by the way, by its title. It's actually a program, or it's a Masonic Model Student Assistant. That's it, Model Student. Now, that sounds like you're talking about the great kids in school and everything, that know what they're doing. They're the model student. No. It's actually for those at-risk students. It's a program that is designed to reach out to the schools in your community and get them to send their teachers to this program that the Grand Lodge of Ohio helps pay for, that the teachers get 100% paid for to go do this. And what it does is it trains them to identify the at-risk students and get them the help they need, the extra help that they need. So that's what that program is about.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. So, and it's one that one of our DEOs is our representative to that committee, and I've sat in on several of his presentations on this, and I think it's a great program.
Yes, student assistance program we have here too, Mike. I think there's probably some crossover from our committees, but the student assistance program is rad in that it provides one critical role in allowing our lodges to reach out and do something positive in a community by identifying at-risk youth and things. So, yeah, it's a clutch committee. I love it.
Yeah, so, I think it's a great thing that we have.
So what have we learned tonight? First thing I learned, there are
lots of committees.
Way too many committees. The number of committees is way too high.
John
So
F.
when do
Kennedy
we form
said,
the COVID committee?
The COVID committee. Hey, don't give him ideas.
It's just the Grand Lodge. It's just the Grand Master. That's your COVID committee. John F. Kennedy said a committee of 12 is a committee is 12 men doing the work of one.
All true.
Oof.
Yeah. I mean how often really though? Like we've all gone around the board now and talked about all these committees. You know, we have like the drivers and then the people who just want the touch. Like I touched that as it passed by. I'm special.
Yeah, one thing that
Yeah.
that I teach, one thing that I teach in some agile stuff is like you want your agile teams to be small. Like they literally prescribe things like no more than 9 members on a team because
2 pizza rule.
You get
2 pizza rule.
Yes, if you could feed the entire committee with 2 pizzas, then that's a perfect size. Some committees with 1 or 2 members could eat 2 whole pizzas. And remember, kids, every pizza is a personal pizza if you believe in yourself. The thing that happens when you have a committee too large is you get this thing called the Ringelmann effect. The Ringelmann effect is when there's a lot of people involved, it's very easy to hide in the background. It's very easy to do what they call social loafing. Well, I don't need to contribute as much because we're all in this together. It's been proven when you look at like the larger the number of people in a tug of war with a rope, the less effort they will actually exert. That's been scientifically proven. So the same is true for the amount of effort committed on large committees. So keep that in mind as you're forming your committees. Keep them small, keep them tight, keep them accountable. What else did we learn tonight?
And the idea that too many people actually make too many ideas to manage.
That's right. The good idea fairies.
Yeah, what do we call that? It says there's a quote out there. Somebody said it right. They said something like, "If 10 people have to get together to paint a room, it's always going to end up beige." Right? There's no standout. There's no standout. You're not going to be like popping. You're not going to. They're just going to kill it, bland everything down because you want to appeal to the committee rather than stand out and stand for one thing. No disrespect, but you get, the cafe diner, right?
It'll get watered down.
1,000 pink shoelaces.
Yeah. 1,000 things on the menu. Not one of them is great.
Like Cheesecake Factory. So, what else did we learn? There are some similarities in the committees across all jurisdictions. So some that just popped off my head. We have membership. We have about the Masonic law, very common in all these.
We got a lot of IT committees too.
Got to have some IT committees. They should probably step it up a little bit, especially in COVID times. But did you hear about the Grand Master of Texas? Like, had out an edict this week that said it's allowed to use the telephone to do ritual work, but don't do any other voice over anything, voice over IP, voice over Skype, voice over. Nope, that's not allowed. But you have to use the plain old telephone system. So
tin can and string.
Arguably the least secure. Okay.
If you want to hear a longer conversation about that, I talked to some of the guys on the Fort Worth podcast this week. So check out their latest episode that just dropped, where we had a fun time nerding out over security and technology and encryption and all that fun stuff, along with some other things. So that's a little shameless plug I did early. But it's related. You got to have IT. You got to have an IT committee that thinks through these things. So that's it. Anything else? Any other highlights, observations, crazy sparks of insight?
I want to ask you guys. You threw out 2 numbers earlier, and for the record, in front of all the people in the world listening, how many people were on your membership committee? How many people are on that? Jason went black. He doesn't want to be seen.
No, I'm good. I had to refocus the camera.
No, I mean there's about a dozen who are on the committee, and because that one's a little unique, that it has district representatives and sometimes a backup in all of the districts covering Virginia. So
they're all counted.
Technically, yes, because they are the extension, they are the ambassador from the committee to their local district, and have to be aware of the plans, and kind of support and endorse the plans and report back.
Like, why doesn't that just fall onto a district deputy or somebody though? That's just silly. It seems like people just that feels like cronyism to me.
Mm-hmm.
Just taking all your friends. I mean, there's room to say like you and Jason are friends and are on the same committee, but that's because you both are like can attest to each other's actual works and expertise in a subject. Right. You just happen to be buddies.
Right. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. No, I agree.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that John Rourke named me to the committee.
I will, because but to Robert's point, like, of course that's going to naturally occur, right? When you have 30,000 members in a state, and someone's going to ask you, who do you want on your committee? You're not going to know all 30,000 members and all their talents and strengths. You're going to say, I know that this guy can deliver. This guy is dependable, reliable. Especially if you're forming a group project, you want to form people on the group that can get the group project done. So
so to be just totally forthcoming, I'm on the education committee for the last 2 years because Scott Duvall, the worshipful master of my lodge, my best friend, is the committee chairman. We've talked every day, and so we bounce ideas, and so it's the same thing as what's going on there. I think with you two, there's an expertise level, but we also have a really diverse group that spans the entire length of the state, which is outstanding because those people make me look like idiots.
Yeah, and
I look like an idiot compared to my other education committee members. They're brilliant.
Yeah, and I do want to add, I added Jason to the committee. I did not replace someone else. So that was
that's true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also actually serve on the public relations committee as well. And I've been on that committee for about 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ohio's
How often?
Education Committee, it's there's one from each district, and that's actually chosen by the each district's advisor. That's who mentions that, gets that person onto the committee, makes those recommendations. So it's not, I mean, there's, that avoids some of the cronyism. Now, one of the things that Ohio did this year, though, with our education committee also, is that they have also asked all DEOs from each district to attend those meetings as well. So it kind of adds almost three times as many people to it, depending on who actually shows up.
Wow. All right, so let's start bringing it home, given the hour. This has been fascinating to see the diversity that's included in this spectrum of committees. But you can see every jurisdiction is going to have some unique needs. Let's go to Juan to kind of take things home here for us. So we'll start with you, Juan.
All right, so we had very good conversation, both in our Facebook Live video and on the YouTube chat. And one of the messages that stood out recently was also by worshipful brother Billy, and he said, "Don't do a committee, or don't try not to be a part of a committee if you're in the middle of going through the chairs." And I can definitely understand, considering how much time it would take for some of these committees to execute their responsibilities properly, for you not to combine that. So, hopefully our leadership pays attention to the people that are available and flexible, or have the ability to serve, and also the brothers who have specific skills we've mentioned this before, that it's a good idea to make your talents known, to make sure that you express yourself in a way that showcases, okay, here are some of the assets that I have as an individual, whether you have experience in public relations, marketing, if you have experience in education, leadership, whatever it is. If you are able to share what those strengths are, and if you have a desire to be part of a committee in the future, I don't think there's anything wrong with making sure that the right people know what your skill sets are. So this was a very interesting conversation. I was surprised about how the beginning of the of our show, it became very tedious very quick for me. Think like hearing all the titles and everything, and it really made me realize, wow, there are a lot of committees in overall, and I can see how that could be overwhelming. Ideally, if you have that many, they're all doing their responsibility and pushing the cart forward, as opposed to just going along for the ride, like you were saying earlier. Just, I touch that, I'm a part of it in perpetuity. So for the brothers listening and watching, thank you as always for your participation. Your feedback is important to us. Here in the Masonic Roundtable, in Whence Came You, in the Winding Stairs. So if there are things that you would like to hear from us, make sure you to let us know. And my shameless plug tonight, I want to invite you to go, if you're on YouTube, once this is done, hop over to the Gentleman's Brotherhood and subscribe. I have a YouTube channel, and I have a lineup of videos coming up to help men in their development in society. It's not necessarily a Masonic group, but I have some things in line that I am certain you'll find interesting and useful. So thank you again, as always. I'll see you next week.
All right, time to man up. Let's do it. Thanks, Juan. Next up, let's go to Mike the intern. Over to you, Mike.
Hey, so I like the idea of some of these committees. I don't know, again, since I don't know a lot about some of the other committees, the education committee to me has potential, and especially since the last couple of years, we've had some grandmasters willing to help with the idea of starting a program and allowing it to follow into the next year, and the next grandmaster allowing the next one to follow, to continue on with that same program. And I kind of think that's how all these committees need to, function, because it's kind of difficult if one grandmaster says, this is how I want to manage this year, and then next year, the next grandmaster says, okay, throw all that out and go with something else again. So that's my opinion on committees and how they should, what we should be doing with all that.
So. All right. Thank you, Hammy. Over to Jason Richards.
All right. Wow. So yeah, we've seen a lot of diversity, but a lot of similarities as well when it comes to the folks in the groups whom the Grandmaster delegates to do the important work of the Grand Lodge. A lot of these committees were originally put there for a reason. Now, depending on the jurisdiction, those committees might need to be revalidated. But we have faith that they were actually put there for a reason. And so I think one of the hardest things about looking at Masonic committees and Grand Lodge committees in particular is how they get involved with those committees. And for me, it was a bit of luck and happenstance, because I knew the chair of the IT committee, Brother William, who was talking about some of the initiatives that the PR committee was doing. And I said, wow, I could contribute to that. I'd really like to do that. And, a good 5-6 months later, I was on the committee. And
that'll teach you.
a lot of it, a lot of it ends up being who you know. But, there's if you have questions or want to get involved with committee initiatives, I encourage you to talk to your district deputy. Seek out Grand Lodge committee members or the chairmen of those particular committees if you can find that information, because they're not going to know that you're available and ready to help unless you make that known. And that's what I did. And 6 years later, I'm on 2 committees.
Huh. Well,
and that's just because I turned down an appointment for a 3rd one.
Keep up the good work, despite that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, over to you, Robert.
Around and okay.
Try again.
Okay. I just think it's interesting that there's so much, I guess, bleed over into a lot of these committees. If there's anything right now that the pandemic is really doing for us, for instance, kids' schools are going to this like max of 3 hours a day of instruction. And that's because they're leaning on this idea of efficiency. What can be done, what works best, what's most efficient, what is effective, and leading with that and letting the rest fall off because really it's negligible. And I think there's probably room to do a little bit of that in committee work, in that you can probably have one larger committee, let's say 15 members, and break it up in that committee. You 3 guys are on this, you guys are on this, you guys are on this, and then really kind of compress what's there, because truly there's a lot of stuff that's antiquated and doesn't need to be there anymore. That said, I just... man, there's always some leader or a couple guys in a committee, or if it's a great committee, every one of them is pulling their weight every month on the call or whatever it is. And just hats off to those guys who do that kind of stuff, and people who are drivers of their committees and really check in every month and don't just leave it like, a committee that reports it one time a year at Grand Lodge that they did something, and the rest of the constituency of Grand Lodge is like, what is that? What is he even talking about? I didn't hear about that. Because that's what we call, that's pencil whipping it. And we don't need any of that. We need doers, movers, and shakers.
Yep.
And don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, or really don't be afraid that somebody doesn't like what you're going to do. Because you can't be everybody's friend forever, right? Mm-hmm. So that all said, the season finale of Lego Masters was amazing last night.
Huh.
I just have to say that. And go check out the Meet, Act, and Part podcast. I think 10 episodes in now. A bunch of guys from Midnight Freemason started it, and I was a guest last night, or the last episode, and it was a really fun experience. So check that out. They're doing a great job. Really interesting guests. Not me, but others. Right. So thanks so much for watching this podcast and hanging out, and just looking forward to the next time we actually can all see each other face to face.
Thanks, Robert. So what I'm hearing is that Masonic podcasts are like Grand Lodge committees, right? They all just bring their friends in and talk amongst each other, right?
Yeah, why not?
That's where the real
podcast cronyism.
Podcast cronyism, love it.
Cronyism.
Look it up. It's a real thing now.
Okay, now it is.
To Wikipedia. So I want to give a special thanks to Brian White. Good evening, Brian, for talking to us in the YouTube chat. Joe M. with a donation of $357. Hashtag committees are fun. You put the fun in fundamental. Nathan Tweedy wanted to tell us he was on the Grand Lodge committee on creating subcommittees about other committees. And Joe M. wanted to also chime in, debating you publicly, Robert, about something that you said. So whatever it was, you're wrong. But yeah, so that's it. I learned a lot. It's fascinating to see the jurisdictional differences. It's fascinating to see how many and what are the committees that get created. And one thing that would have been great to ask, it would be, are there any that are missing? Or are there any committees that you think you would like to have in place? And so that's a good conversation for you to have with your brothers, to think about what's missing, right? If anything.
Committee on Esoteric Philosophy.
What? Someone write it down real quick. And it has to be a separate committee from education. You can't lump it in. You can't lump it in with leadership and symbolism. It has to be separate.
With the George Washington Memorial Committee.
So this was great. Learned a lot, and hope you had too. So want to thank you all very much for watching, and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.
John, we forgot to plug our upcoming Zoom talks.
We have upcoming Zoom talks, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
whoops. Oh well.
You know, if only people were sticking around, actually listening to this, then they'd know about it. So.
Yeah. Saturday night at 10 for you. Yeah. What? Monday night at 8 for me. Oh, tomorrow night at 10. That's right.
Friday night at 10. So this is where the party's at.
Yep. And for the first time ever, I'm gonna give a Spanish talk.
What?
I'm gonna give a very first Masonic, the first Spanish Masonic talk. I was invited by some brothers in Puerto Rico. So on the 21st,
sure you'll be able to do that?
Tuesday. Mire, señor, si usted habla la mitad del español que hablo yo.
You have to brush up on it.
I love it.
It's a little rusty, but it'll pass.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give two. I'm gonna give the same
Mama
presentation.
Es una vaca.
Oh, bro, I'll punch you in the mouth.
No.
I'm doing the same. I'm doing the same
señor.
speech in Spanish and 1 week the same in English.
Which is easier?
Well, I wrote it in English, so the second is always going to be easier, I think.
No matter what it is, the second one will be easier, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Okay. For me, it's not difficult to switch from one language to the other.
Right.
So
I just didn't know if anything got lost in translation or.
No. Oh yeah, for sure. Like the positions. Have you ever heard like some of the positions in Spanish? I have to ask every now and then. Wait, what's the senior warden again?
Mm-hmm.
It's their vigilance. So that's the title that they're vigilantes. They have.
Okay.
And they're not junior and senior. They're first and second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So it's almost like having to do the math in my head whenever I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
Just
that's the real translation.
Conceptualizing the differences in languages is bizarre to me. Like what rhymes in one language
oh my God,
doesn't rhyme in another language.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then it just...
and you better not be using idiomatic expressions.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, you're right.
Or
I don't get it.
You do it on purpose. Or you do it on purpose.
The senior deacon was quiet as a church mouse. But he's like, What?
Yep.
Sorry, Mike.
Mike's got to pay for this.
Oh, uh-huh.
Because you're traveling overseas.
Oh, yeah.
Mike?
Yeah.
I saw someone look through that window back there.
Watch your back.
Oh. Yeah.
Is that does that lead to a room?
No.
It's like a little kid looking through the window.
Are you in Nick Johnson's basement?
I
was going to say, I think I've slept in that room, but then you pulled out the Nick Johnson's basement.
Yeah, are you under distress?
This is across the hall from where you were, actually.
Oh, okay.
Blink twice if you need help.
That's right. Try and adjust this camera so I can see what's really going on out there. Oh, that's just the reflection.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun.
It's a Guy Fawkes mask.
That's it. Yeah.
We'll wrap it up for now. All right. So have a good night, guys. Yep.
All right.
Have a good night.